this is Stampy, and welcome to a Minecraft Let's Play video, and another video inside of Stampy's lovely world.
I was in the middle of watching episode 810 from his Lovely World series when I realized it was starting to end. As somber as this was, I saw an opportunity to celebrate it before it departs. Originally, I considered making a game, naturally because I am a game developer. To do that, I had to understand what defined Stampy's Lovely World. I thought of some core pillars: happiness, kindness, creativity. That last one stuck with me. Building in Minecraft is very simple, but it's that simplicity that empowers the creativity of the player. Stampy's videos embrace that aspect, creating buildings and games that are simple enough for a viewer to recreate themselves, but wild and interesting enough to allow their imaginations to run free. Although I had some idea of how to do a fan game, it would be a huge undertaking that I wasn't ready for. It wasn't until he started rebuilding a replica of his old room in this episode that I realized what I wanted to do. I wanted to reimagine what Stampy's room looks like, to fill in the gaps between what these blocks could represent, and to harness my creativity, like he would have wanted. Before this all begins, just know that I am very amateurish at 3D modeling. I started by creating a replica of his room in Minecraft based on the episode where he redecorates his room. Wait, that was over a year ago? Huh. In the middle of finishing it up, I realized what I've done. I found myself almost living in a very iconic place, to me at least. There was a very magical feeling doing that already, and it confirmed that what I was doing was the right thing to do. I imported the world into Blender using Mineways. First thing I did was build the structure of the room based on the Minecraft version. I then worked on the balcony that he walks onto every episode, which looks to be in the shape of a circle. I did the railing for the balcony, but wasn't super happy with how it came out, so I decided to return to it later. Next, I worked on the lantern. I really like how the candle came out. Almost all the objects I made here are based on a bunch of images I found online, although not everything here will be something I made, as you'll see. The bed frame was next, where you can see I was being very precise to the original bed model, although I added some curves to it, a common pattern you'll be seeing, like the mattress I made. Next part was the blanket, which is a flat plane I molded around the bed, then morphed a bit to sell the imperfections of cloth folding. I did a similar thing to the pillow. Next were the two bookshelves besides the bed, which I interpreted to be nightstands. I was working on the knob of the drawer and thinking it kind of looked like a nose, and that gave me an idea. I added some ears and eyes, making sure the drawer could still close with these things on. It kind of looks like a bat now, but you'll see where I'm going with this later. Moving on to the chest now, this is one of the few things that actually look like their Minecraft counterpart, but more smooth and detailed. Next thing I want to work on was the iconic cake, which I wanted to deviate from the Minecraft version. It still has the frosting dripping from the sides, but it's round, a lot taller, and slimmer now. I decided to finish the room's structure next, working first on the stairs. To figure out the dimensions, I looked up the staircase building regulations in the UK, which was a little unnecessary, but after spending a lot of time getting it to look right, I eventually got it. The top floor followed after, which I added more curves to. I also added some railings to them both, being very sure to make the posts evenly distributed, as you can see. For the stairs, I did some algebra to figure out the optimal steps per post, and for the top floor railing, I placed objects in front of my screen to measure, forgetting that Blender has a ruler tool. The stairs originally did not have them, but they look a lot more realistic and safe. Continuing on the top floor, I made Barnaby's bed, similar to the mattress and blanket. I then worked on the dog feeder, which I think is what I'm least proud of, to be honest. It's very loosely based on an actual dog feeder. I was just improvising a lot, and I tried making a lot of the parts of it in one piece, which didn't look very good, especially with the topography. The plate and bowl, however, turned out much better. After adding a small wall under the stairs and extending two of the posts to reach the ground, I decided to work on the ender chest. But since it was under the stairs, and I didn't want to do another normal chest, I thought a shelf instead would have looked better. I also had an idea for the torch and item frame above it, which you'll see later. And next was the spruce log holding the cake, which I just made a simple dresser out of. Although the crafting table and jukebox next to it was a lot harder to approach. For a jukebox, an actual one would have looked out of place, so I had the idea for maybe a media center. However, that gave me an idea for the crafting table. What if instead of crafting objects, Stampy was crafting videos on his setup? I found a short of his current setup, so I include the triple monitors that he had. I even made sure that the displays were exactly 27 inches, which is the standard size. The jukebox and the crafting table were merged into one desk, but I still had an idea for the jukebox. Something that takes in a disc like the jukebox, but also is the reason why the whole series started as a whole. The Xbox 360. I believe he must have had the black one, since I think the white version was prone to not lasting very long. Confusingly, the second model was called the Xbox 360S, which is even more confusing these days. As much as I would have liked to have made everything myself, it just would have taken too much time. The console and the controller would be the first models I imported from Sketchfab. Credits to all imported assets will be in the description below. I took a look at his peripherals and he has what I'm guessing is a very flat Apple membrane keyboard. Knowing he deserves much better than that, I imported this custom mechanical keyboard and a mouse. The keycaps looked nice, but I wanted to make it a bit more fitting, so I just messed around with the color curves and aspirate until I got this orange and white keyboard. I really struggled finding a free poppy I could use since I really didn't want to model one. I eventually just settled on a low poly generic red flower, then I made the flower pot for it along with a small table. Afterwards was the painting that Stampy has in the corner. The actual original one is Bust by Christopher Zetterstrand, which I hope I'm saying correctly, so I decided to use that version. After that, I started adding materials to things like the monitor and the cake. I prefer to use procedural texturing to do the materials, which is basically using a bunch of random math to make things look the way you want. I gave the cake a general orange and white color scheme for now. The Xbox 360 wasn't really working out, so I swapped it out with a low detailed version instead. Also keeps the style a bit more consistent. The controller was also having some problems, as you can see, so I re-imported it using the original blend file. Looks good now. Time for the desk, which I gave this subtle wavy wooden pattern. Something similar will be used for everything wooden from now on. I redid the texturing on the cake, swapping the colors, and I think it looks a lot better now. Next was working on the fabric for the dog bed. I used a similar wood pattern for the ender chest shelf, making it purple too to match the colors and have it stand out. I then added materials for the snow walls, stairs, chest, dresser, table, and flower pot. I also tinkered with the flower's mold to make it a bit more detailed. When rebuilding his room, Stampy placed an item frame and told his helpers whatever item was placed would stay, which was a snowball. Despite being replaced by obsidian later in the episode, I wanted to honor the original snowball that should have stayed. Stampy's original walls were made of oak and sandstone, which he used because those were the blocks he could get at the time. He once mentioned wanting to spruce up the place, so that's what I did. I even made the planks pop out a bit, based on some designs I saw online. And instead of sandstone, I used just stone. I realized the top floor was made of smooth stone, not wood, so I fixed that. The carpet had a simple X pattern of blue and cyan, but I wanted to see what I could do with procedural texturing and came up with this cool wavy pattern. Next came the torches, since we need some light. I made these indoor lights that kind of resemble torches since they're tall and light up the top. I placed them in their original places, including inside this shelf. I decided to fix up the modeling and make it even more detailed. After adding holes for the doors and the windows to go, I decided to finish the nightstand, carefully adding some fur, whiskers, and texturing it. It's Stampy. This one was based on the 3D model for his Wonder Quest series. I think it looks really cute. I even made the middle shelf white to represent the belly pattern. But there was another one I had to make and I didn't want them to be exactly the same. Luckily, I knew exactly who to go with. Blue eyes, yellow base, a small beak, and a tuft of feathers up top. Hey, there's Squishy Quack. I took some inspiration from this piece of fan art, and I think they also turned out really cute. Even with my beginner modeling skills, I would honestly love to have these two in real life. Next on the list was adding a mouse pad. just to make this desk look less empty. It's still missing a PC and the cables too, but we'll just say that the desktop is inside the desk and the cables are currently hidden and organized into the desk. Looking at his tour, however, I don't think this would have been the case. Time for the door now. I wanted to make sure it could still open if I wanted it to. Same with the doggy door, giving them closer to an oak color so that they stand out. I also added the glass windows. Now, Stampy normally has diamond boots above his chest, but I had a different diamond thing in mind. His diamond play button, which is the last object I imported. I made a frame for it too, so it's a bit more visible on the wall. I finally returned to the balcony, fixing the railing and adding the poles and lanterns in. I gave the candles the same materials as the cake, implying them to be cake scented. There's supposed to be a book on one of the walls that declares a truce between Stampy and Hit the Target. But I'm not in the mood to model another book, so let's see what I can do.
But I do know there is like part of like the community that kind of like only care about nostalgia and like all they want to do is relive like when they were watching my videos when they were young and happy before they grew up and got worried and had jobs and had to pay taxes. You know, the good old days.
Good idea, Stampy. So I added a UK self-employed tax form. I filled it out from the perspective of Stampy in his lovely world, making sure to include some important dates as Easter eggs. Hopefully this isn't secretly offensive or illegal, because I thought this was kind of humorous. Anyways, quick fire. Pin for the documents, roof, dog toy, base on the slime ball, background, which I will scrap, and lamps. Afterwards, I did some tinkering with lighting, render settings, and after over 30 hours of work over the course of a month, here is Stampy's room reimagined. Looking back, some things definitely could have been better. The lighting's a bit off, I was missing the trapdoor on the balcony, the torches on the roof are missing, the colors could be more consistent, the models and textures are amateurish, and yet I'm still very proud of it. It's my biggest 3D modeling project so far, and it's undeniably Stampy's room. But that will do it for this video. Hopefully you all enjoyed. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all later. Bye! I just wanted to do that.